All right, let me hand over to our presenter, who is Francois Swanepoel from Fusion BIM. He's going to be taking us through design options in Archicad and what you can do with it. Francois, over to you.
Thanks, Matthew. I'll just switch on my screen. You can please confirm if it's come through.
Sure. I can see it.
Great stuff. Well, hello, everyone. I'm happy to present this interesting topic on this tool with you. Since Archicad design launched the design options in the release of Archicad 27, it's been a game changer in the way that I've set up my template and our projects work. So I'm hoping that this will inspire you to use this tool in creative ways. So we all know the running industry joke about the architect in his design meeting, and his client is arguing with himself about, shall we do this design or that design? Or this design or that design? So this is where the design tool shines, and I'll be taking you through how it's applied on a project. In this workflow that I'd set up, I had created a experimental model. It's a very basic model, as you can see, just a small building and just a starting model representing a small existing house. And I did this back when Archicad 27 was in beta version, to test for myself and to find out for myself how this design tool will slot in with our workflow and how we need to use it, especially in renovation projects, and how it integrates with the existing renovation tool. And during this project, I actually came up with a workflow using the design options as a phasing tool, in addition with the renovation and the design options. So I'll take you through this to see how it works. So this is the base model that we will be working off. And I have labeled all these elements by means of their renovation status and in which design option they fall. So the second part of the label there is live from that element. And if I select this wall, just to quickly show you that these labels are live from the element. If I change this selected element, go to my design option palette and link it to the phase 1 demolition design option, you'll see the label being responsive. So this is important for your understanding as we're going through this model, and keep an eye on these different elements as they go through the stages and phases of this project. So just a quick in terms of how the design options work. In the palette, in my working environment, I have the design options palette here on the right-hand side. It has a top part where you are building your list of design options and design option sets. And I'll go through that in a second. And then at the bottom, you've got functions to fade out the inactive design options. This pen icon indicates the active design option. And if you place a new element, it will be modeled inside that design option. And you can just double click to switch to this design option. And because this is now faded out by means of this color, that is assigned, and configurable. You can choose the color you want for that, and even choose the transparency. You can see that this wall is in the phase 1 demolition design option. The phasing is not a typical intended use case for the design option. Just want to point that out. This is something that I've developed to create phasing in my projects. Okay, so this is your palette. You'll get the palette on the Windows palettes, and then your design option palette is there to select, and you can park it on in the work environment as you choose. Right. If on the palette, you can open the Design Options Manager, and in the Design Options Manager, you can organize your design options, and you'll see these on the left-hand side is your design option combinations, and these gray, let's call them folders. You create them by using this folder. It's called a option set. And within this option set, you've got 2 design options. So the design option is the unique individual design option elements. They're organized in option sets like a folder, and you can then control like layer controls, visibility. In this design option combination, you can control which design options is visible or being hidden in that design option combination. Then further to that, if you go to any view, go to the view settings, you'll find your design option combination that you can assign to this view. And behind the design option combination, just as a reminder, let's say graphic override. Behind this combination is your option sets and the options. So when you've got questions on that, you can just post them in the chat, and we'll cover them in the latter section of our session. Okay, so in your quick options, I've got a quick options palette at the bottom of my screen. The standard work environment. I'll just go to this blank screen and go to the standard work environment. These options that you are mainly used to finding at the bottom of the screen for your layers, pen sets, graphic overrides, and all these things are quick options. And you can choose from the list by clicking on the name, and you click on the icon to open that settings. So you don't need to go to menus for that. But in my case, I've hidden them. In my work environment, I want to always see them, and they're always in this palette for me. So the same happens here. When you go to your design option, you can switch it over. And let's go to phase 2. You'll see elements coming out, and you can access the settings from there as well. So that's the basic setup of the tool itself inside Archicad. And now we're going to quickly have a look at how it's being used. So here we have a body, and the graphics that you can see is obviously the walls, floors, doors, and windows. Each of these elements are labeled, and you can see the renovation status of this windows and the walls, and everything is existing, and it's in main model for our design options. Okay. So then we go moving on to the next stage of this project. And now obviously the renovation filter changes the graphics of these walls, existing walls, to gray solid. And the new elements then represent no overrides, as it should be for our drawings to be submitted, council and construction. Our common South African building regulation standards. In this phase, there's elements that is in the phase 1, there's elements that is demolished. And again, if I select this element, whether you model it or edit it afterwards, change this to, by selecting it, going to the palette and linking it to a different stage with a different design option. Okay, so that belongs there. I'll just put it back there, and you can see the label reporting the designated or linked design option that it belongs to. So it seamlessly works with our renovation tool in Archicad. There's just one snag in this process. I've worked hard on this experiment to not have duplicates. And what I mean by that is not have duplicate elements. So you would typically model your first phase, the existing condition of your renovation project. And then, as you see here, let's look at this wall. In this stage of the project, this wall is now being designated as being demolished. But in this stage, where it's coming from, and attach that label right there, it is showing up as being demolished. Okay. So if you need to label this wall or draw information from it into a schedule for this particular design option, then you need to change the status or have a duplicate, which is a replacement wall in the next design option. It is a bit tricky to get your head around that one, but just be aware of it, and we can discuss it later or in a session afterwards if you want my assistance on that to evaluate your templates or projects. So in this case of this wall, I had to have this wall as a duplicate, because in the next phase you'll see this wall is being demolished to create a passage through this room, and then that wall needs to be demolished. So in this case, I literally had a different wall. If you can see, this wall ID is 16. And if I go to this one here, I could make that 25. It was a copy, so the ID stayed the same. I changed it now. So if I go to this one, select that wall, you can see the ID is 16 and the other one is 25. So this is a duplicate wall. And because this is a copy of the original wall, but it was linked to this demolished design option, which is part of the design of the project in this phase, you might need to have duplicate elements which will only show up in that design combination. Okay, so that's a snag that you just need to be aware of. Okay, so just going back to the beginning. when you select an element, you've seen that in the interface, but I'm highlighting it here for you, that the selected element will turn green, turn the design option it belongs to in green in your interface. So if I select this one, this element here, it turns the main model green. Then just another thing about the main model in the design options, you can turn off all these design options if they are not active with a pen. But your main model, you cannot hide the main model. It's always on. It's like the Archicad layer. If it's an Archicad layer, you can't hide it. So that's another thing to keep in mind when you're building out your design option sets. And you can view the design options, the individual design options and the various sets as layers, which you can turn on and off, make it visible or hide it. It's kind of very much the same concept, but the main difference is this wall belonging to the main model and this wall belonging to phase 1 new is both on the same layer. So only that wall selected, it's on K wall. This wall, only that wall selected, it's also on K wall. So irrespective of its layer assignment, you've got additional design options, give you additional control to hide and show elements in combination with other elements as needed. Okay, so the other thing that you need to understand as your project evolves, this is a complete timeline of one single project, but it goes across phases or stages. And the elements within this model needs to evolve with that timeline. So I'm using the graphic, the renovation filter to override the existing condition for me, like you've seen here. So when I submit this plan and the construction happens for this phase or stage of the project, this is then the true condition because this is new as indicated. But 3 years down the line, the client comes back to you and say, okay, I want to create another extension of my building. Then you just take out this model and you can save it under a new name. And then basically what you'll do is just change the renovation status of these elements to existing. Then this becomes your existing starting condition project, to which you then add your design for the next stage of the project. And the graphic overrides takes care of that for you. And here you can see there was no wall there before. So this is obviously in this stage of the project, it's new. And also it belongs to phase 2 new in the design option sets, like that. And just take the cursor off of that, you'll see this wall is in that phase and in this design option as well. And this is then in the original phase 1, it was the new design option. Okay. So it's just a matter of some logic, which is related to a real world scenario in terms of a timeline, to achieve both your renovation outputs as well as staging and phasing. The main intention for the design option tool is as follows. So we're going to just set up a scenario in this room here. And as you can see, by means of this furniture layout, now ignoring the structure and the building, this is a cupboard, and it indicates that this is a new cupboard and it is in phase 1 new. Okay, and on this side we've got a desk and a desk chair and some lounge furniture, couches and a table, coffee table. But I have in another design option an alternative room layout for this particular room, whereas the cupboard is a common item in this room layout, and the study furniture is then removed, and this is now a bedroom. So the design options is not only for the structure and the building. You can create alternative room layouts, alternative bathroom layouts, alternative with their alternative finishes for rendering purposes, rendering the different options, saving a BIMX so that the client can explore those. And I'll show you the BIMX of this file, where you can then present your BIMX to the client with two models inside the BIMX, where the client can switch from the one design option to the other inside BIMX. Okay, so it also works very well for this purpose. This is to show that the design options is on a worksheet. There's a collection of different 2D elements, text, image, dimensions, label, and even your change cloud, fills, lines, and circle, and all the rest of the elements. It doesn't matter. You can use and assign these elements to a design option, whether it doesn't matter what type of element that you're placing, 2D, 3D, they all get linked and they all get controlled. Their visibility get controlled by the design option status, whether it's visible or not in that design option combination for this particular view. Okay, so I had this set up to show up these different stages. Okay, so that was this different next stage for the design option. I want to switch on here. So all these elements belong to that design option. And turning on the next one is the new for phase 2. So I'm just using these existing design options in the setup just to illustrate how these 2D elements are controlled in the visibility. And then also how you're going to use this, what you see on screen here now, to show you how you can even then manipulate the graphics of these elements still with graphic overrides as usual. So your graphic overrides work with your design options. And if we have no overrides, you don't see any change. So I'm just switching then to the main model. And you can see how these graphics are turning green, yellow background, green text, green dimension lines, the label marker, everything's green in this design option. Going to the next, that is ignored, and now the override is applying red text to this and a green background and the lines are all green, red, along with the text becoming red in this graphic override. And then for this one, it becomes blue text, gray background, as you can see, blue, purple lines. And so how does this work? Let's go have a look. I'm just opening the graphic overrides, and here I've set up the different graphic override combinations, as I've just switched over from one to the other. And within each of these is one rule, unique rule for the main model, matching the name of the set, the combination. And let's go and have a look at that individual rule. And here you'll recognize, let's move this to the side and just apply that so that you can see where that graphic is coming from. So if we go to that option, you'll see the main model, which is this. I've turned, with the graphic override, I've turned the lines green, the foreground pane of the fold and the background of the folds is all yellow. And the criteria, all element types matching the condition of the design option name is main model. So it reads the element assignment for design options. And then when you call that up, these graphic overrides will then be applied to only those that match this design option assignment. It's normal graphic override stuff, but just to show that you can call this up in a criteria and then isolate your graphic overrides or focus your graphic overrides to do certain things with those particular elements. Okay, so the next thing we'll be looking at is how graphic overrides work with your schedules. Now, obviously, this model here, if I go to the complete model for the full project, we're focusing on the door schedule. So this has various doors in 3 different design phases. And the doors in those phases are assigned to particular design options. So from that, we are calling up in this schedule so just to understand, we're just calling up all door types. It doesn't matter, we're not adding criteria here to call the particular doors in the design option. The information we're reporting about these doors are the ID, the elevation view, is renovation status, and all the different information about the design option of these particular elements. And we're going to have a look at what information is reported in the schedule for these. If you go to add fields, in the search at the top, you just type in designed, and it will filter out the list, everything that's related to design options. As you can see, it's gray because it's all already added to the schedule. So that's how you get them in there. And just double click on them or select and click the add at the bottom of this pop-up, and you'll get those fields listed in your schedule. So this is what we're doing with the schedule in the background. And you can literally just have the same schedule and create a copy of that schedule in your view map. You don't need to create it in the project map. It's the same schedule, just a different view. So if I double click on this view, you'll see by means of the view settings, it's assigned to the existing design option combination. So it is responding accordingly and only calling up these existing doors, whether they are new, whether they are demolished, as you can see by those dashed doors. These will be demolished in the next phase. And I can duplicate this schedule by just clicking on it with my mouse on left click, holding the control key and dragging a copy. And you'll see I'm going to change this then for following along is DO design options for existing. And this will be DO phase 1. And this will be DO phase 2. It's the exact same schedule. And they are all now set with existing as the designated design option combination. But if I change this setting here to phase 1, you'll see that I'm selecting the capitals, and this is the way that I've named it for myself to understand and know and follow. So this is the combination that combines all the design options intended for that particular phase. I'll take you to the design option combination setup so you can see that again. So now you see, if I just fit this, there's more doors to this combination. If I change the following one and change that to phase 2, design option combination, and I go to that schedule, you'll see that there's even more doors on the schedule. And if I'm on this one where everything is shown all the way to all the stages, if you go to your quick options and you just switch back to existing, you can see that's the full extent of the doors in the existing design option. This is the then added doors to the existing and the phase 1 together. And then in phase 2, you'll see there's the last 2 doors being added to the schedule. So just by assigning your design option combinations to a schedule, you can expand or contract what doors and windows are shown on that schedule. It applies for anything that you schedule because it's a common view setting that controls the visibility of those elements coming to that view. So you don't need to go to the scheme settings of the schedule and then only call them up here. You can, but it's even simpler to have the same schedule, exact same schedule. There's only one door schedule for design options in this file, just with different view settings, and you get the answer to that, what has been called up. So let's go and have a closer look at the schedule information that's coming from these elements. I'm going to fix that. So as you can see, by means of our fields that we pulled up at the bottom of this scheme settings, there's your ID for the design option ID, the option name, the option set, the set name and the option status, all reported in here as set up in the scheme settings. And as I scroll along, we are viewing the phase 2. So we'll have all the doors in all these different phases coming up from our options. And in this case, you can see this door has 2 design options assigned to it, because it has, in the schedule itself, you can even switch it and move it from one design option to another if it needs to happen. So you didn't need to go to the model or the plan view. You can literally switch it from the schedule, just like you do with properties. You can change that. But in this case, you'll see that it has assignment to this to the phase 1 demolition design option and phase 1 demolition, because it's in another design option combination, is represented twice. Although the status is the same, this tells you that it's appearing in 2 different design combinations with the same status. And so this is then how it's appearing in your schedule. And you can even see that the renovation status is not influenced by the design option. Whatever you assign in your renovation palette for that element is then maintained and are not influenced. So that's a short look at how the design options link with your schedules. Okay. So we had a look at all of these, the worksheet and the 2D information. It was meant to show it later, but we've gone through that. Okay. And that is a very quick walkthrough of this little project in the different design stages, using design options on all the instances, whether it's the plan, the 3D model, the sections, the elevations. It all follows through, and you can maintain this onto your layouts throughout the life cycle of a complete project within the same file. You don't need to have multiple files. So on your layouts, as a final... Sorry? Okay. So in the layouts, I've placed these different design options in their phases as I've set them up here. There's a note about the intention about this experiment, but in this, you can see the graphic override combination that's been assigned to that view, screenshots of your design options, the quick options showing you the view settings complete, and then also the renovation status and how the renovation status is set up, so that you can understand the combination of all these different view controls that gives you this output, whether it's the model or the 2D view. They're all there for you. And I've published this to a BIMX, which you can download. This BIMX I used and entered into a Graphisoft community challenge back then. And I happened to win my first prize on any of these challenges that I've entered. I've entered a few of them over the years. And this is the one that won me the first prize. So I got a nice coupon from Graphisoft and t-shirts and all these things that they send you. But I'm going to put on screen. Here you can see the next stage with all the different settings as I mentioned, and then also the final stage of this project with all the different stages, and you can read the labels, relate that to the settings and assignments. Here I have highlighted on each of these cases where the design option assignment was made for that particular view. And then I have a link and a QR code that you can scan. I'll keep this up so that you can make a screenshot or scan it with your phone or take down the note of the link. And then you can access that particular BIMX file. I've made it public, and then you can investigate the settings from the layouts. Showing you that file in BIMX itself. What I want to highlight here is just how you can switch between the two models. So there's a folder for each of these phases. There's a model for that, a model for this phase, and a model for this phase in the BIMX. And when you open that model, at the top of the screen, you can literally just click on that and switch to the alternative model and switch the alternative model. Using normal BIMX workflow and features, you can look at the element properties, and you can then find your design option assignment for this even in here. And there you have the layouts where you can just read in more close detail, by definition, what these settings is. So you can use this as a reference file to understand the workflow and reference it as you're setting up your projects using this feature of Archicad. Okay, that's my story. I hope this was insightful to you, and hoping that you get to do more with your Archicad and design options. How we can take questions.
Yeah, great. Awesome. On track. Love it.
Okay.
All right, let's see what people have in terms of questions. All right, Darby is saying thanks, very informative. Chat again. So, Zane, unmute yourself. Go for it, man.
Thanks for that. Just a very dumb question. I mean, why would you schedule your door schedules into the various options, design options?
That's a good question. You'll see when I've made changes as we've been working here, and these views, the drawings on the layouts, I particularly locked them to have manual update as I've worked through the different stages. So this drawing shouldn't change when I move on to the next phase of this project or next stage of this project. Then I lock these so that they don't update. So if you're applying that to the schedule, let's just quickly drop the schedule layout here. And it doesn't matter what name it is. For now, we'll just go assign this for our, and now we go back to those schedules. the same way, you can have your schedules as per the plan, as per the elevations, everything designated for this design option when that needs to have scheduled. And when it's past that time of the project, these will then be scheduled. You can isolate only the new doors in this particular phase in the schedule if at this stage of the project you need to do that. Sometimes you make changes to these existing doors, you replace the ironmongery, those things, and then even the previous stage doors are being worked on in the next. But you can only schedule these additional doors in that stage of the project if you need to. But I just showed you that you can basically, just with the view settings, control what appears on the schedule.
Is it more because you're actually using the tool for phasing and not for options? That you need a record of the schedules of the various phases versus options. The reason why I'm asking, and I'm not an Archicad literate person, but what we found is that, beyond stage 3, just say when you're in stage 4, or even if actually when you're in stage 5, and you're busy doing design options,
yeah,
oh, it's just crazy, the energy, the dimensions, and the this and the that, it's just that, you're at documentation stage. So maybe my question is that, if you're looking at options, is there a stage in a phase of a project where, options need to stop? Does it stop at stage 3? Because it really gets intense in the documentation if you're going further.
That's a very good point. And I'll take you back to this. The place in your timeline, in your architectural stage 1 to 6, where design options stop, is that where the client has made his final decision, whether it's this design or that one. And in that case, the standard setup for Archicad design option tool is for you to then change the status to set this as the chosen final design. Let's go to these bedrooms and the study. So if we go to this, so let's say the client then chose the bedroom layout for this particular design and need to move forward with that. You then close the design options. I don't want to do it on this file because the intention of this file is to demonstrate and experiment this whole workflow. But then you set this as your default, and the others will then be deleted from this setup. So if you make a choice between either of these two, then within this folder, the option not chosen will be deleted, and you'll only be left with this, and this will move, these elements will literally be moved into the main model. So you can still only publish your main model with these design options chosen for your project. If you don't want to lose these design options for reference later on, we know clients come back to mainly, most of the times, the first option that you had, or the first iteration of the design. So if you feel that your client might be coming back to that, or there's a strong technical reason that they actually need to come back to that despite their choice, you can keep it in here and still publish the option that they chose. And even then, stage 4.2, you can come back to this if by means of the engineer and the QS's feedback, it now becomes necessary to move back there, and the client accepts that. Does that make sense?
Yes, no, thank you. I think what we found is that we also are wanting to preserve the options for eternity, and at some point it just became crazy. We we had to accept an option, or move it into the main model, because it was actually till today it's messing around with our door and window schedule. It's I mean, and it maybe we're not so kind of have so much experience in it, but we just found that the schedules were spitting out stuff that we two doors or doors of both options, etc.
And while you're talking, I'm just bringing up the criteria, the design options into the criteria. So you can totally isolate this schedule to only bring in design options that is main model. And just keep in mind, or just watch this happening as I'm doing this. My current design option combination is phase 2. And as you know, from what I've shown you, it's supposed to, by means of that design option view, this view setting, it's supposed to show me all the doors, which it is currently. But I've literally now just changed the source schedule scheme settings to only show me these. It needs to match. The doors appearing on the schedule will now only be from the main model. And I did not change the model elements, move everything to the main model and deleted all the old stuff. And as you can see there, this is what's happening. So there's a solution for that. You can still have all your design option elements in your model and only schedule what you want. And you control that by means of the criteria at the top.
Yeah, I see Michelle had her hand up. Michelle, do you want to unmute yourself?
Hi, thanks very much. Francois, thank you for this. I just wanted to check two things.
Mm-hmm.
Often there's a scenario where you have a phase 1, phase 2, phase 7, whatever, in normally up to design stage 3, but you want to take a few elements out of phase 1, a few elements out of phase 2 and combine them. Is it a simple process, or do you have to redefine each time?
No, you can, if you, let's say, for example, you need to take the elements from assigned to this bedroom layout, internal layout, and combine that with, let's say you had a bathroom, double bathroom layout options. And you need to then have one bathroom layout with this particular bedroom layout, and have this, or alternative, you have the same bathroom layout with a study layout. That's why I've broken up the design options into separate folders, into different design option folders, so I can have them isolated. Otherwise, I would have just have these. The only layout options I'm using here is the bedroom internal layout, and all of the rest I could theoretically have had in one folder. But the way that Archicad design options work is you can only have one option, design option active within a design option folder or design option set. So there's no alternative design options in this set, and thereby I can just control that and say turn it on, turn it off with any other combination of elements here. So to achieve what you need to achieve in that example that you mentioned is maybe just create separate option sets, the folders, and isolate them so that you can then pick and choose in your final view setting, the combination, what you want in this particular view. I hope that helps.
Yes, it does. Thank you very much.
Cool.
And then the other thing I just wanted to ask you is the duplication that you got there.
Mm-hmm.
We often find that with the renovation settings where you lose information. Is that purely just a graphic need for now?
You find that you lose things when you assign the renovation settings, or what? I don't understand.
So often, if you demolish a door,
yeah,
it doesn't leave. It doesn't show a new wall or something like that. Sometimes.
Oh, it doesn't show this fill-in wall.
Yeah. So that's why I was asking if that duplication that you had, that you pointed out, is just purely a graphic element, or is it a requirement that you have to do some duplication?
I managed all three phases and the renovation status, and only this wall I couldn't get to switch its renovation status between the different stages, and I had to duplicate that. And,
okay,
and
so
I wanted
okay.
to particularly want to avoid duplicating elements, because this one wall has a life cycle, a typical life cycle. And I wanted to represent that same wall in its different conditions throughout. And this, to achieve the documents I needed to achieve, this is the only element that I needed to duplicate into a design option in order to show it correctly.
Okay, no, that's great. Yeah.
Sometimes you must, but it is avoidable for 80-90% of the time.
Okay. Thank you very much. That's most appreciated.
Welcome. We appreciate the questions.
I did see there was one other hand up. Seems to have gone down now. Where is it? Mashego, you want to ask your question?
It's fine. I was gonna ask. I guess I had missed out on the design option name, as Francois was explaining to Zane. So I was gonna maybe try and ask about design option status. Maybe I just need to go through these things, and then I can understand design option set name. I can understand design option sets, but I think design option name was the solution to what Zane is asking. So yeah, I was just gonna ask about the other ones. I guess you don't need to go into them, Francois.
Yeah, I think it's just a matter of remembering the chain. Let's call it the chain of command, and what it's referring to. So the design option combination is a view setting that you assign to a view, and that the status of these different design options within the sets. So there's a combination and there's a set, and within the set there's the option. And linked to this option is the elements on the model. So if you just understand that hierarchy and keep that hierarchy in mind, you can control your behavior of your drawings and outputs, as well as understand how you need to configure the setup in order to get the control that you need. Because the design option tool it helps you control what you see. It's a controlling tool, if you can reference it like that.
Yeah, we started using this tool just to archive stuff without necessarily creating views.
Yeah,
that need to be assigned option sets too. So yeah, it's very, yeah, at some point we're using it for its graphic quality, because you can fade stuff and you can, it's very powerful too, but it still takes a bit of time to learn and use for the right way.
You're right. You can literally just use this assignment of the element to this particular stage and just point your graphic overrides to this, and it will control the graphics of those elements assigned to this design option, and not have alternative layouts, but only using it to control your graphic overrides. So it's really, like everything in Archicad, is versatile, and it's lends itself to creative application. So just something from what you just said that brought that up for me. Okay.
Thanks.
Right, guys. Before we go, if you would like to reach out to Francois, if you can just close the design option manager. Right, on the screen there, you can do so. There is his information, and just take a screenshot, and you can then do so. I've also put on the chat box the YouTube channel. So if you have missed one of our previous sessions, you're welcome to go to that YouTube channel and go and give them a watch. I've made sure that everything is uploaded and up to date, obviously, except for this one. And those will always be up to date before the next one is released. And yeah, that's everything. We've gone a little bit over on time. So unfortunately, I'm going to have to call it here. And yeah, if there's anything else, any suggestions or anything that you'd like to send through to us, you're welcome to do so. Thanks so much for your time, Francois. And yeah, enjoy your long weekend.
Cheers, everyone.